A lot of times during our show, Brad and I are discussing some things that are going to be coming up when we get to a break. And
discussing, yeah, that's a good word.
as brothers typically do. So today we're discussing SmartStax, and you know, there's a lot of excitement in the industry over 8 different traits being in one hybrid. I mean, that's pretty cool. We didn't think that was even possible just 5 or 10 years ago, and here we are on the market today with SmartStax.
Yeah, so let's talk about the big advantage to this whole thing. What it comes down to is there are 2 different rootworm traits, 2 different corn borer traits. So in other words, you should have better control of rootworm slightly, and slightly better control of corn borer. Probably not a big deal in terms of percent control, but here's the big deal. Because there are now 2 traits of corn borer, 2 traits of rootworm, the EPA has allowed the refuge acreage to be reduced from 20% to 5%. So if you were planting, let's call it a VT3 corn that has rootworm and corn borer, you had to have 20% refuge acres. With SmartStax, now you only need 5% refuge acres. Is that a big deal?
Well, what a lot of people in the industry are saying is, you know what, before with just a VT3 and 1 trait in there, you had a 1 in a million shot that an insect out in the field is going to be resistant to that trait. Well, that one insect survives, reproduces, there's a few more next year, that kind of thing. So there is a time window that these traits are going to be good for. With the SmartStax, where you're stacking up traits on top of traits, now that 1 in a million insect has a 1 in a million shot of living. That's why the refuge requirements are going down. And for a lot of farmers, this is a really big deal. You think about, I got to plant 20% refuge, how am I going to get it done? Now I've got to plant 5% refuge, and I was looking at like a 60-acre field, for example, you've got to plant 1 bag of refuge corn. That's not very much. So I don't know, there are a lot of advantages that way in terms of resistance management and a reduction in refuge. I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, I think it is not a big deal at all. First of all,
probably because I think it is a big deal, but
well, all this refuge talk, I don't believe in the refuge thing. Now, don't get me wrong, we have to plant the refuge acres because we're required, so we're stuck. But I just really don't think that having refuge acres is going to make that much difference as to whether we have resistant bugs or not. And I don't believe that science has proven that fact. So even if we have that, I don't think that part's a big deal. Here's the other thing I don't like. Now that there's 5% refuge acres, are you going to treat those 5%? Well, a lot of people probably won't. So on those 5% of acres, you'll probably have a 20 bushel yield reduction. I don't like
more.
Yeah, or more. It might be 40. I don't like that at all. On our refuge acres, if it's 20% or if it's 5%, we're treating them for sure, guaranteed. We're putting insecticide down with the planter, and then we're going to come post-emerge and spray for corn borer. We have to if we want maximum yield. So don't let those refuge acres go. And I just think that it's going to get a lot of people thinking, oh, I only have 5%. Like Darren said, oh, it's only 1 bag out there. I'll just let that go. I'm not going to treat the refuge acres. I think that on average, SmartStax will cost farmers money, not save them money. Because now they're not going to treat the refuge acres. I'm dead serious.
Okay, well, here's the thing. When you look at SmartStax versus just a regular hybrid, whether it's a conventional or a Roundup Ready or a VT3, whatever you want to compare against, that's fine. What's the big advantage? Well, the big advantage is a little bit better insect control. That's
Debatable.
About it. There's not a big yield boost. There's no yield enhancement on this particular trait, but there are some yield enhancements that are coming down the road, whether it's drought tolerance, cold tolerance, nitrogen efficiency, those kind of things. Right, we're talking about the base package here of SmartStax.
Yeah, well,
not with all the other things stacked in.
We'll see if it's the base package in a few years, because here are the 2 problems I have with it. Number 1, cost. Cost is ridiculous. And 2,
well, that's debatable.
It's got Liberty and Roundup together, which I hate because now I can't use it in my continuous corn rotation. I can't plant SmartStax or I'm going to have continuous corn, because how am I going to kill any of the volunteers? I can't. I want to plant Liberty corn, straight Liberty. I want to plant straight Roundup corn. That's what I use in my continuous corn rotation. Well, I'm just telling you. And let's
you're going to be fired up when they stack in the 2,4-D tolerance in there too in a couple of years.
We'll
and now
see
all of a sudden you've got 2,4-D tolerance and FOP tolerance. You'll have 4 things now that won't kill your volunteer corn after planting SmartStax in just a few years.
Okay, well, we'll see how that all plays out. But anyway, for today, all I know is if I've got to pay an extra $30 a bag with some companies or an extra $120 a bag with other companies just to get the SmartStax versus my normal VT3 or triple stack corn that a lot of guys will say. Is that really worth it?
Well, you have to look at it for your farm and think about it in terms of return on investment and what your yield difference is going to be. Let's just, for easy figures, use your $30 a bag difference.
Okay.
Say that SmartStax costs $30 more than what you would normally plant.
So it's roughly call it $12 an acre then.
So you've got roughly $12 an acre by the time you break down how far that bag of seed corn is going to use. Well, $12. And
$3 corn.
If you have $3 corn, that's 4 bushels.
Yep.
That's all the difference you need to see is 4 bushels. If you have some insect problems out in your field, maybe it's some insects that attack the ear. You don't have control of those with a regular Monsanto VT3 corn. It doesn't take very many. They say it may be only 3 kernels on an ear and you're losing a bushel per acre on corn if you've got 200 bushel potential.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you lose a dozen kernels on the end of an ear to insect feeding, well, it would have easily paid that extra $12 an acre.
Yeah, and that's true. When
that's
you
why
talk about better insect control, yeah, I kind of forget. If you're not planting Herculex trait, well,
see, I'm trying to win him over to my side. Now, Brian says it's ridiculously high. Well, sure, if you look at the price tag, it is high. It's the highest price we've ever had for seed corn. I mean, how many of you have ever paid $300 a bag for seed corn? You probably haven't, unless you're planting some brown midrib corn.
Yeah,
that's
but I'll
about
tell you what we are going to, because we are actually going to plant some SmartStax on our farm this coming year.
Of course we are, because we're going for yield.
Yeah, but it's mainly going to be mycogen, because that's about $100 a bag cheaper than the DeKalb. So
okay, there's so many debates on the seed industry, but what I'm really trying to urge you to do is look at what SmartStax really is for your farm and run a return on investment. Maybe you can't go into the year saying, you know what, I'm going to use it on 80% of my farm. Maybe you say, you know what, I don't know, it's new product, it's new hybrids to me, I'm going to plant it on 10%, 20% of my farm and don't take a huge risk in this first year. There's nothing wrong with SmartStax, it's just that it costs a little bit more. And then you can determine on your farm, hey, can I justify that added cost for this added insect control? And, you know, it's a smart resistance management thing too. Does SmartStax work for me?
Yep. So again, even though I really don't think that SmartStax is a big deal. We are going to plant, it'll probably be 10 or 20% of our acres to SmartStax this coming year. And we would encourage you, any new technology, at least take a look at it on just a few acres and see what you really think. It's always hard when you've never planted something to say, well, should I do this or should I not? But you know what? If you plant even just a few acres on your farm, you'll start to figure it out yourself. And I always find that on my farm, I get the best answers right here rather than looking around the rest of the country. I want to see how things perform on my own farm.
Well, the great part about that is on Brian's farm, I can find many things like our Weed of the Week. Brian, let's show you how to get this under control coming up right after this.